Hello, everyone. My name is Bernard Naden. Welcome to our new episode of Empowering People, Enabling Business podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to be your host today. Currently, I'm an independent verification analyst of B-Lab in partnership with Genashtim. Joining us today, we have Maszuin Kamarudin, the Quality Assurance Manager in Genashtim. She's well versed in the e-learning field, and today we're going to dive in and get to know more about her and the work that she does. Hey, Mas, welcome to the episode. Good to have you here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I'm Mas. I'm the manager for QA and content development department in Genashtim. Basically, what we do here in QA and content development, we develop or curate content for our client based on their needs. We also QA on making sure that the quality of the content adhere to our specific standards. And right now, we have ventured into converting the content into e-learning. Let me briefly explain to you what is e-learning. So e-learning is basically very broader concept that actually includes any form of learning over the internet. Previously, when we speak about e-learning, before internet took over the world, people can learn through CD-ROM, if anyone still remember, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
but now with the internet, we don't need the CD-ROM or the pen drive. We can just connect to the internet and request for all the information and whatever that we want to learn. So when we speak about e-learning, there is also another term called the online learning. So e-learning, basically you can learn anything from a course provided by Coursera or EDX, for example, or even Genashtim, eCornell, but online learning is a subset from e-learning in which that online learning is more on the interaction between an instructor or a teacher with the students in a virtual setting. So it's a subset of e-learning. So e-learning can be self-paced. You can do it anytime, anywhere from the comfort of your home.
Right. That is super interesting. And can you also give us a brief background of what we are doing in e-learning at Genashtim? Because I heard that you are in charge of developing the e-learning courses.
Yes, definitely. So what we do basically, how we develop a course, first, of course, we have the first contact with the client. And then we try to understand their needs. So there is a need assessment, and then we want to know their objectives. From there, then we will do research on the content based on the objectives, based on the audience, based on the learning outcomes that our client wants. From there, then we will convert the content that we have developed into e-learning. When it comes to conversion, it's very important that we take the design of the e-learning into consideration. For example, our clients are mostly adult learners. They are employees of a company. So it's very important that we don't take too much time, don't put too much words, we make it interactive. So for example, first, we need to break the courses into micro-learning or bit-sized. And second, we try to get them involved in the e-learning. So we have levels of e-learning. The first level meaning that they just watch and listen. So second level is a little bit of interaction. Maybe at the end of the module, there is an activity like a quiz. Third level will be like they actually click on the screen to find out what is the information provided, or they slide a slider on the screen to find out or to read about a case study, for example. So we get them involved in the e-learning. So the design is important to make sure that they are engaged.
It sounds very tailor-made.
Yeah, that's the advantage of e-learning, is customization.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I want to touch into the features of e-learning. What are some of the features of e-learning, like in terms of inclusion and accessibility?
Okay, when it comes to inclusion and accessibility, first thing I would say is the power of internet. When you have internet, you have a good connection. You basically are included in the virtual learning system. When it comes to having the internet, anyone can learn anything from YouTube, from paid courses, free courses, from a university, a school, anywhere. When it comes to inclusion, I would say that it has a deeper value in which that learning can be accessed anytime at the comfort of your own home. Even people with disability can reach out or can gain knowledge and can learn from the internet. So they are not being sidelined by the physical requirement to be in the class.
That's right.
So this is the beauty of e-learning, that is accessible and also it's inclusive.
That's very nice to hear.
So if you can see with the power of internet, so we can also customize e-learning instead of having fixed curriculum for the learning. So for example, if I hold a master degree, I could pick and choose the course that would actually adapt to my understanding, not just understanding, but also my thinking skills. So I wouldn't go for a course that is so basic. So because I've mastered the skills, so I would go for a course that require me to think critically. So the customization can come from there. But if you go for a fixed curriculum, basically in a university, you have to take all the course. Doesn't matter whether your level of thinking skill is developed or overdeveloped or underdeveloped. So with e-learning, you can actually pick and choose what course that would suit your needs. Apart from thinking skills, it can be also based on the skills that you need at work. For example, me, I would need skills in designing so that I know how to engage my client next time. And I would go for courses like motivation. I can pick and customize one basket what I want. So
Yes,
that's the beauty of e-learning. Yeah.
True, very true. And when it comes to the stakeholders of e-learning, who are usually the major stakeholders that we look into?
The first one would be students and learners. In this era, we have Gen Z, who is very apt with technology. They are well connected. And when I say well connected, they have their phone all the time. And they search for information. They shop online. They learn online.
They also do dating
Yes,
online.
exactly. They play
Everything's
games online. Yeah, everything is online. So this generation is the generation that we need to look after as of now. Another one would be the subject matter experts or facilitators or teachers. So they are where the content comes from. They need to think what contents that would engage the students. What content can the students learn? What content can actually deliver value to the students and learners? Okay, from course developer perspective, it is important that I make sure that there are a specific set of needs which can be done through needs assessment. Now I'm working with clients, so I need to know what do they need when it comes to e-learning. So, for example, our recent client make a request like, we want a course in leadership or in change management that would help aspiring leaders or leaders in the early years, not senior leaders, to actually manage change throughout the organization. So in that mind, we know their need is specifically on that aspiring leaders and young leaders. And they will actually come to request, we want to be specific. This should be something that leaders can apply the skills on the workplace. So what I do is I try to give case studies or examples of successful companies that have done this before. For example, like Apple or Google, how they managed it. Even Netflix, that those normal rental place where you rent videos and they moved into Netflix, like digital subscribed movies and shows. So this is an example of a change management. We need to understand their needs and then we create objectives in a way that their needs will be fulfilled through the learning. And then course developer will also think about the kind of assessment that we would have, some case studies, some discussion boards, some quizzes to enhance their understanding. And then we will make sure that they are able to visualize the skills that they learn and apply at work. So course developer here needs to think from A to Z. How do we deliver value of the learning? How can we help these people apply the skills at work? It's not a one-way learning. It's not, okay, I have all this content, I have all this research and everything, and you like, no. We will start from engaging the client or the student or the institution, university, college, or whatever, and then we will develop based on the need. We need to think in a way that it will benefit our clients or our learners. So that's from the course developer's perspective. And when it comes to institutions like schools, universities, they also play a role in pushing or driving e-learning, in this time. For example, like when it comes to institution or companies, we know that not everyone have time to attend a 5-day seminar or workshop. Not everyone have time to attend a 3-month course physically. So e-learning would be actually very good for them because they can learn at their own pace, and then they can actually apply those skills in their work setting. At universities, as we know, probably a lot of the students would be well-versed in technology. So the university, their role is to update the current trends, current knowledge, so that they can actually equip the university students with the right skills, right knowledge, right information when the students actually go out and find their work. So the only way to do this, to quickly adapt or to quickly upgrade or update knowledge, is through e-learning. Because when we want to rely on conventional learning, it will be, time consuming. It will be slow paced, what I would say, in order to catch up with the current trends or current knowledge.
Right, that's so true. And I'm only 26 this year, but sometimes I feel like I'm way behind and there's so much to catch up because of how fast our technology is moving, and it's growing.
Yeah.
True, true.
Yeah,
very true.
the future is here. The future is not 5 years from now. The future it can be like 2 months from now. Yeah,
Exactly.
so
It's
fast now.
it's only moving quicker with technology. There's
Yeah.
no slowing down. I think we can all agree that e-learning only really got popular during the pandemic. And what would you say when it comes to e-learning versus conventional learning? Which one is better and which one is going to be staying for the long run?
Okay, we cannot say that one is better than the other. I think as an educator myself, previously I was teaching and doing research, and someone who is very passionate about education. I think that they both can complement each other. It's just with the technology that is moving so fast, we cannot stand back and say, I'm going to stick to a conventional because it's much better. It has interaction, live interaction and everything. You cannot do that anymore because technology will leave you so far behind. You will lose your competitiveness when it comes to work one day. Of course, e-learning, as you know, is flexible, is customized, is cost-effective. You don't need to travel. The cost can be cheaper than physical learning. But there might be some cons like of social interaction or dependence of technology we experience when our connection can be very choppy during one time of a day, right? And also it needs self-discipline because it can be lonely when you do e-learning. You don't see your classmate. You basically are alone. So you need self-discipline. While conventional learning, what is good about it is face-to-face interaction because at the end of the day, sometimes you need to see gestures. You need to see facial expression of your peers, of your colleagues, of your
That's right.
instructor, right? Yeah. And you will want to do some networking, socializing, and then you will want to have a live Q&A with your instructor. So this is something that sometimes e-learning cannot overtake, but we cannot say that e-learning cannot have it. The e-learning can have it with some improvisation of the liveness of instruction. Okay. But of course, the bad things about conventional learning is you cannot keep up with the recent knowledge or recent skills or recent trends because e-learning will definitely top this up. And geographical limitations, if you have to travel 50 kilometers just to get to the class, or if the location of the training in a different region, so it's not really cost effective and time effective. But the good news, you can actually combine these two by having some interactivity into the e-learning. First, you can have discussion board. That's the most basic thing, where you can have your peers in the same course to interact with each other. Second is to supplement the e-learning with live webinars, where instructors will come in and then help you with certain speaking skills, context, because sometimes you can get lost in the e-learning. You don't know, how do I put this knowledge into a context, for example. So instructors can come into webinar and provide you context. So this is something that we can do to actually enhance e-learning, so that at the end of the day, there is some live interaction, either through a webinar or through discussion board or through group project. So I cannot say e-learning self-paced is completely okay on its own, but you need to combine it with technology when it comes to webinar.
That's right.
All together. Yeah. So you can get that live interaction with your instructor.
That's true. I totally agree, because I think we humans are social creatures. So it can't always be like computer scripted. Sometimes we want live interactions. So like you were saying, that's when you have someone to come on the screen and present or anything like that would make things more engaging for us. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, this is what Genashtim is doing. Genashtim always provides Q&A webinar to all of our e-learning courses, so that the instructor will come in and provide their insights, share experience, provide context into the learning, provide answers to the questions, provide case studies and stuff like this, so that we make sure that we deliver quality through the interaction as well, apart from the discussion board that we have already embedded in the e-learning.
Right, you're right. I think that's the right way to go. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mas, we spoke a lot about e-learning. I would just like to ask you, overall, would you say that e-learning is worth it?
Definitely. Because first you have to see the concept of education. Of course, it's worth it. You get up-to-date information, knowledge to apply in schools, at work instantly. You don't need to wait to go to a class. You don't need to wait for a schedule. You can actually get it online anytime at your fingertips, at the comfort of your home. Of course, it will be worth it. So I would like to ask you a question. Do you think it is worth it?
Oh, yes, definitely. I can attest to that. One event I really remember was when I did my TESOL certificate with Genashtim. So it was in an e-learning format, and I found it really useful because I could actually do it in my own pace. So I'll be in front of my laptop, I'll be probably having a drink, just taking my time, relaxing. And when I do it at my own pace, I feel like I absorb more. I actually understand the modules better compared to if I was in the classroom, maybe it would be packed with people. Maybe I'm more of an introvert. So yes, I think I really benefited from e-learning when I did my TESOL certificate. Yes.
Apart from that, whether or not it's worth it, of course it's worth it. At this era, we also have personal goals, right? So e-learning can basically fulfill those personal goals. For example, like if you aspire to be a manager, so you probably would want to take a leadership course. If you aspire to be a chef, you want to learn to cook maybe on YouTube or any subscribed platform. So when it comes to personal goals, when it comes to employment requirements, like myself, my department, I told my staff that now we will proceed to converting our content into e-learning using Articulate. And believe me, even myself, we have no experience, no knowledge on how to convert. So what we do all together, we say, okay, let's learn on YouTube. Let's ask Maclean from Learning D department. Let's ask ChatGPT on how to do it. So when there is a requirement in your employment that requires you to gain certain skills, the only way to do it is through e-learning. You get the information, you get the skills through online learning. So I think this is something worth it. It's here to stay, it's here to be with us, it's here to help us.
That's right. Mas, in today's day and age, we are bombarded with e-learning courses from everywhere. There's just so many courses in the market. It's so saturated. How can learners actually differentiate between these courses and find the one that brings them the best value?
When it comes to this, people can learn from YouTube and still get the best value, right? Or people can learn from ChatGPT or Google Bard or Bing Chat to get the value that they want. Of course, all these AIs and mediums like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, they are free and they are so short that people, like those short reels, people can learn even faster and they can actually visualize how things are done and they can do it themselves. The value comes when you want a specific knowledge or specific skills which would require thinking and guidance. Like I said, if we go for blended learning or collaborative learning, for learners, they must be careful to what course they are looking for. Basically, it needs to be based on what they really need. So if I want to cook a French food or a Mediterranean food, I probably would go on Instagram or YouTube. But if I want to learn something more technical, something that is deeper, like how do I address conflicts at work? So I would want an e-learning course that gives me the basics, the criteria to be an effective leader to handle conflicts. And I would want to know or communicate with the peers of my course to know how the situation in their respective company, or I would want to actually have a mentor or an instructor, which we can get it through a webinar on how to manage situation with different scenarios. So it really depends on the need of an individual. So for example, companies, when they come in and they want to actually get courses, they can get it from Coursera, from EDX, from Udemy. So they can get it and they can even learn it for free. The question is, will they be able to actually apply this at work? eCornell is a good example, which I think their collaborative e-learning is excellent because first you learn, you listen to the recorded videos of the professors, and then you discuss with your peers in the discussion board, and then they will ask you to actually apply the skills that you gain, for example, employee engagement, on the work situation. So I would go into my department. I would think, how do I engage my staff, for example? Then I would say by giving them feedback, by creating a very open environment where people can agree and disagree. So if you would want a value that you can apply to your workplace, then you go for a course that gives you this value.
Right.
It also depends on the company because the best thing is to have your manager to actually, okay, what did you learn? How do you apply this skill? And that's the engage, like maybe a company would have a certain evaluation of the course. Like I have sent my staff to take this course and he or she has been able to apply the skills within the last 3 months. So that's how you gauge through the evaluation. Companies need to be careful. Companies need to think the effect of the learning, the value of the learning that the trainees, the learners bring back to the companies. So it depends on the individual needs, on the company needs. It depends on the application of the skills. Then you will select the specific course or training providers that will deliver you the value, or else you can just learn it from YouTube. It's free.
Wonderful. So today, with the rise of AI and especially ChatGPT, which you did mention a couple of times just now, what would you say about this technology? Will it challenge e-learning or will it complement e-learning?
This is a difficult question to answer. Okay. First, I would like to look at the good side. AIs are there to actually help us to smoothen process, to make the process more efficient. Effectiveness, we cannot tell yet because the effectiveness can only be gauged through application or through practicing the skills or the knowledge that you get from AI, from e-learning and everywhere. But AI like ChatGPT or chatbots, virtual assistant, AR, VR can actually enhance or enrich e-learning. AIs help us to deliver information that you need. You don't need to go to Google anymore and Google and you have like hundreds of results that you have to sift through. You have to filter which one is relevant to you or not. But AI such as ChatGPT or Google Bard or Bing, they basically give you what you really need. But this can be complemented into e-learning. But then how do we make sure, like I said, when it comes to e-learning, it's so common that people will just say that e-learning is just e-learning. But what we want to do is to deliver value. So you can get ChatGPT to answer discussion board, whatever. But at the end of the day, is the evaluation of the skills gained from the technology, the AI, is the e-learning. That's why I say the stakeholders, such as the course developer, the students, and the institution or companies who will gauge the effectiveness of the learning. AIs are there, AR, VR, virtual reality, augmented reality can provide enrichment, immersive learning like you're in an avatar or something like that. It's nice to have, or chatbot assistants who can actually receive your queries, and at the end of the day, someone will answer the questions, or the chatbot has the pre-answers to answer your questions. Machine learning, data analytics, AI as well, that help you forecast or evaluate the performance of a student, or forecast what the student will achieve at the end of the course. Things like that. There are a lot of tools out there, but at the end of the day, these tools will only help to make the learning process more efficient. But whether or not it delivers values, it goes back to the checkbox of the need assessments of the individual himself or herself, or what the company needs the employees to learn. So the value we can only know when there is the evaluation system or the gauge system to know whether the skills they earn from e-learning or AIs can be applied or have been applied to the problems or the work settings that they are involved in.
Right.
Yeah. So it's more complementing.
Yeah. Wow. Hearing you share all that makes me feel so excited about the future.
This is something that I always have to put in my mind. AIs, they have preset algorithm, they have preset NLP, meaning natural language processing, which they can understand what you're asking or questioning in the chat box. But at the end, it's human who has to do the practicing, the actualization of knowledge. Yeah. It can do everything for you. It can write an email for you, which is great. But when it comes to problem solving, decision making, you need critical thinking, you need the thinking skills, the logic thinking, the machine learning to master the AI so that it can help you. So with the AIs mushrooming at this moment, the future is to equip our future generation, even the generation now, with good critical thinking skills. So they are able to think rather than to rely completely on AI.
That's right.
Yeah. It's very important. Yeah.
I can't imagine, but I know it's going to be really interesting. I can't wait to see how it all turns out eventually. Yeah. So, Mas, since you've been in this e-learning field for so long, what would you say is one of the biggest challenge you usually face in this field?
The most common challenge would be low completion, or even no completion of the e-learning course. But that's not my biggest challenge. My biggest challenge is when you have a learner who thinks that the e-learning is not giving any value to him or her.
And how do you combat all these things?
Basically, before we jump into asking that person, first, we want to look at the overall perception or overall feedback from the students cohort, for example, that student batch. So if we have about 15 students or 10 students taking the same course and only one person think that this course is not adding value to him or her, so we want to look at the overall feedback. And if the overall feedback would be similar to the opinion of this person, then we would basically engage the student who wrote a complaint and then say what is missing, how can we help you, how can we improve, and listen to them. And if they say that it's too wordy, I cannot follow anything, or I have problems with the navigation of the e-learning, so we need to listen to them before we come into improving the course, or improving the content, or updating the content and everything. But most of the cases, we found that we receive only from one person, while the rest is okay. So either we try to find out what is the problem, and then we will decide whether this problem is really serious or this is just a personal perception. And usually we will try to explain this course is intended not the way the person wants to have, because there is a difference. For example, a course is called e-commerce strategy and e-commerce. So for some people, when they think about e-commerce strategy, they think about all this Shopee, about setting up website, all the technicality of e-commerce, like how do I sell for my website? How do I set a shop on Shopee, Lazada, and etc. So if he is confused between the strategy and what e-commerce is, then we will explain. So this course is about the strategy. How do you study your customers, get suppliers, the transportation, the strategies, how to engage with your clients through Shopee Live or whatever. So it's more like that. So we'll find out. And second is low completion. Usually this happens on free courses because for them it's free. I only do it when I have time. If I don't have time, then I just leave it.
It's free,
But
right? So
yeah,
why would it?
yeah. So it's better to charge them. Then they were like, okay, I need to complete this. So we have cases where students have fallen far behind. So we engage our client support to communicate with the student. Like, do you need time? Do you have any reason why you cannot complete it on time? And we try to motivate them by asking them, do you have any problems with the course or with the instructor? Do you need more guidance? We try to engage the students until the student can be on track again. Of course, there are few cases that low completion cannot be avoided. It just completely vanish. But we will try to engage the students and guide them back on track.
Right. Wow, it's been an amazing session. I've learned so much from you, Mas. Thank you so much for all these insights.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share these insights and information so that, especially for learners, you can learn anything online, regardless. You can learn for free and you can learn specific skills with guidance, with interaction with your peers. So it depends on what you really need. If you need to have certain skills to apply at your workplace, in your own profession, so find the right course. If any government officials would listen to this podcast, then I think this is the time to think about infrastructure in rural areas, especially, and policies and engagement with parents who might not be well versed in technology, so that we as a community can help one another to move our generation forward and not be left behind.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mas.
You're welcome.
So to listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this episode of the podcast. We hope you found the content insightful and engaging. If you enjoyed what you heard, remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. In our next installment, we'll be welcoming a special guest who will be sharing valuable insights on learning management systems. Whether you're a student, educator, or someone interested in the field of education, this discussion promises to be informative and enlightening. So stay tuned and catch you next time.